Welcome into tonight's episode of How to Ride a Roller Coaster. I'm David Ezell, and today I'm joined by Mike Manazir. He's a graduate of Top Gun and commanded an F-14 squadron. And he's also a two-star admiral, retired now, and is an executive with a Fortune 100 aerospace and defense company. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, it's nice to be with you, David. This is awesome.
Yeah, man, I don't think that I got half of your accomplishments in that little bit of time. It just feels like you've done just so much. But so let's kind of take that back. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started the show tonight, just on flying the planes, flying those F-14s. I mean, what is that like just in itself? And then we'll really kind of delve back into the business side and some of the lessons learned.
Yeah, it sounds good. So let me give your audience sort of a sketch of my career. So I graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1981, and I was focused on flying. I wanted to fly Navy fighters. That's what I wanted to do. And so I got a slot to go to flight school down at Pensacola Naval Air Station in Florida. And I managed to get through flight school with high enough grades and a good enough spot to select a Tomcat out at Miramar. And so I got my wings in April of 1983, and I went out and started flying Tomcats in Miramar. I ended up going through all of the training to be a fighter squadron commanding officer. I did that. I commanded VF-31 Tomcatters from 1997 to 1998. After that, I went to the Pentagon for the second time. I'd been there through my career already once. In that tour, I got selected for Navy nuclear power, and went into the training pipeline to command a United States Navy nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. And so that was a 10-year process. I graduated from nuclear power school in July of 2001. Went to a carrier, USS Carl Vinson, as the executive of our officer, second in command. I was on board, second in command on 9/11. We started launching strikes, 7 weeks after 9/11. I commanded another ship. So I was there for 2 years, commanded another ship, called a deep draft. It was a big supply ship that drafts as much as a carrier, so you can practice running that ship around. If you bump into something you're not supposed to, they can say, "Well, thank you very much for your service, Captain. Have a nice life." And if you don't, you get to select for a national asset. And so I commanded Nimitz from '07 to '09, which was an epic, best job in the galaxy. We can talk about that. Came back to the Pentagon for my third and fourth jobs, and then went back out and commanded a carrier strike group. I got selected as an admiral off of Nimitz, that commanded a carrier strike group. I took the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower strike group out in 2012, 2013, back-to-back deployments, and then came back to the Pentagon and finished up my fifth tour actually it was third tour in the Pentagon. Then I went out fourth and fifth tour in the Pentagon. And then retired in 2017, walked across parking lot to aerospace company. And so 36 years in the Navy, 3,750 fighter hours, landed on a carrier 1,200 plus times, lots of that. But I'll tell you what, David, the most dangerous area of operations, most dangerous AOR in the world is Washington, D.C. And so,
No doubt.
Working at the Pentagon. So I had 5 tours in the Pentagon, 15 deployments, lots of fighter hours. And so a lot of time flipping back and forth between, like totally fun operational, on the line. Some of your listeners are operators and they're running their businesses and they're down and in on manufacturing lines. And then the bureaucracy of management, in the Pentagon and weaving your way through the yarn balls of red tape that are in there. So my happy place is in the cockpit of a fighter at sea. And so I started flying Tomcats, and they're just as cool as you saw in both movies. In fact, I was in Top Gun in '85 when they filmed the first movie Around Us.
Yeah.
Totally cool. Had a blast flying that airplane. Really cool. And then I got to fly a Super Hornet, an F-18 Super Hornet, near the end of my career, even as an admiral. So it's a varsity sport, man. It is. It's
Wow.
just, it's like you're working out the whole time and pulling G's and grinning the whole time. I used to grin into my oxygen mask. It was pretty neat. Yeah.
Well,
Fun stuff.
and you kind of touched on it. So let's delve in a little bit more there. So just kind of taking a little bit of what you said, it seems like you like the hands-on creativity, all of that side, maybe a little bit more than managerial side? I mean, even if it's, having a team, leading a team, any of that, you like the day-to-day of actually getting your hands dirty? Do you still prefer that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I love leading teams. I love, going out and doing that. And if you're in a cockpit of a fighter, you get to do cool stuff all by yourself in the fighter. But you're rarely flying by yourself. So I flew two-seat airplanes for a long time, Tomcats, two-seat Super Hornet and a single-seat Super Hornet. So you're flying with another person. You're leading a strike. So could be up to 20 airplanes. And so you're guiding that team, even in the cockpit. But flying a Tomcat, that's like going to the gym and working out. But I really thrive on motivating teams. So a lot of we can talk more about the book later, but the reason I wrote my book, Learn How to Lead to Win, is because I want to teach people how to lead from their heart and not with a title. Mm. And so how do you connect with your team as a human, and how do you connect with them and what learn what they care about and reward them for their contributions and their opinions, and you empower them. And so I love getting teams together and motivating them, and they just want to be with you. And I want to be with them. So that's most fun for me is leading teams.
Mike, I went to the gym today, and I can tell you, maybe it was just the workout that I chose today, but it was nothing. I'm sure it was nothing like being in an F-14 cockpit. But yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, especially when it comes to leading teams. It's building that cohesiveness of that team around you, but also finding what motivates those people on your team, because everybody's motivated by something else. I heard a great analogy once about, say, like a football team. So if you're Nick Saban at Alabama and you're in practice and the quarterback steps back and he throws an interception or he throws an incomplete pass, you may not be able to go up to that quarterback and grab him by the face mask and yell at him. You have to remember who that is. It might damage his psyche, which is extremely important for the position he's in. However, if an offensive lineman missed that block, that may be exactly the thing that you do, because that offensive lineman might feed on that and never miss that block again. So it just feels like, just to what you were saying, it's really understanding your team. How do you motivate each one individually? How do you understand what their goals are, how they're going to get there, and what's important to them, so that you can make sure that everybody's supported?
Yeah, I totally love the metaphor, because you can extend it in so many ways. Maybe what you're working on with a quarterback is he's been afraid to throw. Like, he wants to have a perfect throw, and he's so afraid of getting an interception, he won't step into the pocket and throw it.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is get him to throw it, right? And get him to throw. And then you work on the mistake that he made in allowing the interception to happen. And I'm not a football player. Man, I can throw a football, but I'm not a football player. So I don't understand, when quarterbacks should throw and when they shouldn't throw. But if you're working on him to get him to have confidence to step up and throw, and then that's what you're trying to do is, good job, man. You threw the football. Okay, now let's work on the decision making, getting there. But you know what you're working on with him. Similar with a defensive tackle that allows the defender to go through, right? So you don't want to get him for missing the block. You want to get him because the guy got through to get the quarterback.
Yeah.
Who we're trying to allow to get the throw, right? So, but the biggest thing is, just like your metaphor, it's a team perspective, and that all of us are working on our pieces of the team. And so the quarterback's going to do his job, and the defensive line's going to do their job, and the receivers are going to do their job. And you're just like you said, you're working on individual talents and perspectives from those, and you really, you're getting into their psyches and how they think, and all that kind of stuff to get them to do cohesive together as a team. And then, of course, you're standing over there on the sideline kind of doing this while they're supporting each other and buoying each other up, and they know what each other's working on, and they're striving to get better and better. The big secret is you want that team by themselves so motivated to keep trying to fail, that so they can learn, and they know that failure is learning, and they know that hard work is going to be, is going to get them closer to the team goal. That's where you want them. That's why you want that morale high. That's why you want them all crushed together as a team, not wanting to disappoint each other or you.
Oh, that's great. And is that really kind of built on the person who is the leader? is that built on them clearly defining what the cohesive and the central goal for everyone is, so that everybody knows that the quarterback knows what the other people are going for. The other people know what the quarterback's going for, so that it's so clearly defined that if somebody does start to lag, or if there's a piece where somebody stumbles, you can collectively pick that person up and say, hey, we're all going to the same place. Does it come from the vision and the clarity, or is it more of how you get internal with that team?
Yeah. So it's, first of all, you want to describe your vision as a leader. You want to describe where you're going, and more importantly, and most importantly, like Simon Sinek and the why.
Yeah.
Why? It's very, very important. Everybody understands the why, because even if they're motivated and they're like, Navy SEALs, like why, and they'll do anything, they'll do the what up to a certain point, and then they're going to get there and go, why? I don't understand why we're doing this. And so you want to get that vision. You want to get them to understand the why. They internalize the why. You are always clarifying where it is you're going. I want to bring back something we talked about. I love your how to ride a roller coaster, because I used to take my kids to the amusement park, and I would tell them, this is about the closest thing you get to flying in a fighter. And the way you simulate flying in a fighter is, while you're riding that roller coaster, you're looking at a person or a spot on the ground that's the same spot no matter where you're going. So you might be upside down in a barrel roll corkscrew thing with a roller coaster. And I used to love it. I did it myself. I'd look out and I'd watch the place on the ground and try to keep sight of either the person or the place on the ground. And when I lost him because the airplane rolled over, like you will, right? So the bad guys on the other side of your jet, you're going to lose sight. But you know how to pick them up again on the other side. Similarly, in business, especially entrepreneur, you're going to ups, downs, around, stops, blind corners. All of a sudden, the world just stopped. Imagine starting your business and COVID hits.
Exactly.
It's like, So you train everybody, including yourself. Keep your eye on that spot. That's your reference. That's your vision point, is that place on the ground. And no matter which way you're up in relation to the world, you still got your reference point. And you're always bringing your team back to that reference point. And what you're listening for is the leaders, both formal and informal. You got to know where your informal leaders are in your company. The people that are driving opinion, but maybe they're not the ones with the position. And you got to make sure they're driving the right opinion, right? Like, hey, that thing the boss said last Tuesday, yeah, it's BS, man. I wouldn't even try. That's like color of the month. I've seen it before. Those informal leaders will take you down. So you're listening for those people to start to echo your why and your vision. And then they start going there by themselves, right? And you start to step out and say something, and all of a sudden you watch somebody coming in, and either an informal or a formal leader, and they start saying what you would have said, and you stand back and you just go like that, and you just fold your arms and you say, you go. And now you're just doing the tweaking, right? And
it always blows me away when you have these, and just because we were on the football metaphor, when you have these teams like that are just so dominant year in and year out in any sport, anything. How the people running those teams consistently come up with new things that motivate, so that complacency doesn't set in. They do what they're supposed to do, and that they still have that fire in your belly. It's one thing to have been, not a very good team for years and years. All of a sudden you make the playoffs, and here you come, and it's lightning in a bottle. You caught it. It's another thing to have it year in, year out, year in, year out, and you're just at the top of your game, whatever it is that you're leading or doing. How do you just keep that intensity? Can you keep that long-term focus, just like you were describing, where there's a lot going on, but I just have to keep that singular focus on what we want to do?
Yeah, I think there is. So I was the commanding officer of USS Nimitz from March of 2007 to August 2009. And it is an epically stressful job. I mean, you got 2 nuclear reactors, you got 70 airplanes on a roof, 5,000 people. I loved it. Wow. And I was fired up all the time. And so I was always rolling in with, all right, this is what we're going to do. I mean, I had crew changing out all the time. My department heads changed out. My executive officer changed over. I had 2. Of course, and 5,000 people, they're turning over. The air wing turns over. And so I had to keep motivating people to the mission of the ship as the flagship of the strike group the whole time. And so you're thinking about that, the system, so what does Nick Saban set up at Alabama? What does Patriots guy, Bill Belichick do that keeps these things, like that. And is it a personality like Belichick and Brady? And I'm not a Patriots guy, but I used to just really love watching the coach and the quarterback when they kind of go, kind of really become a true team. Those two people, and they're driving the rest of the team. And then you hear about how they get, they select certain people for receivers and key positions, because they're bringing that, they understand that system and they're bouncing the system off each other and they're making it better. So yeah, I always really was fascinated by how some teams were dominant all the time and people would change out. So whatever system that is, and then I'm just absolutely certain that those coaches stand up at all the practices and in the locker room sessions, and they repeat the why. This is what we do here. We do like this because it works. Coach K down at Duke, right? Duke basketball.
Yeah.
Same thing. And reading books by those guys, whenever there's a biography and autobiography of those coaches, those are priceless because you read what it is that drove them, to have that kind of system. And how did they motivate their teams? Because the nirvana you want to get to in any team, and it's business, it's sports, it's nonprofit, whatever it is where you don't want to disappoint them and they don't want to disappoint you. And so they're going to keep diving into what is it that makes us tick. I just don't want to disappoint the boss. And then you're as the boss, you're going, I gotta make sure I don't disappoint anybody. So it's driving how you think the whole time.
I love that. Love that. And so just a second ago, I want to touch on something that you mentioned. When you have those so let's say those other people on your team that might be saying something in those meetings where it's like, whatever the boss said last week, that's just, whatever, just let that kind of thing go. If that is in a direct opposite direction of the message that you're trying to get across to your team, how do you handle those people? Is it maybe we pull on a lever differently, or is it maybe we're not motivating them the right way? Or how do you kind of handle those just so that you make sure that it doesn't fracture what you've got built?
Yeah, so first of all, you can't let it fracture what you're building. You can't. Okay, this is your box. Everybody, it's like getting on a bus. Everybody's on a bus or you're off the bus. If you're not on the bus, you ain't with us. Yeah. Kind of like listening to Prime. I love watching Dion Prime right now.
Oh yeah.
The things that he's doing, that is center of my X-ring for leadership. What he's doing right now is an example of how you lead a team, to come back from, adversity before, and how you motivate people to go and get past the cockiness. I love the confidence. I'm a fighter pilot. Of course, I love that kind of confidence.
Absolutely. That's why every eye in America is going to be on, their game against USC this weekend.
Of course, the USC, and people understand. Oregon and USC, if people are really watching what's going on, they'll understand, the win-loss numbers. But what he's doing is a perfect example of the style of leadership to take a team to the next level.
Yep.
And so you've got to buy everybody in. So I'm going to tell your listeners, I'm sure that some people, maybe you have too, have heard about the frozen middle in an organization.
I have not, but go ahead. That's fantastic. Yeah, if there's anything to link out to, I'll make sure that we do that too, so that people can have references.
No, it's again, another metaphor. Every organization is constructed this way. I guarantee you. You have, your organization is made up of, 100% of the people, and 20% at the top are totally in with what you're saying. Some of them just because they want to be, connected with you. Some of them because they want to take your job. Some of them are sucking up or whatever, but they just get it. 20% at the top get it. Okay. And they're your disciples, especially for change or a new direction or stuff. So that 20% at the top, that you don't have to worry about them. 20% at the bottom are the ones like the naysayers, where especially they've been there for a long time. So, maybe you're not a startup or an entrepreneur, but maybe you've taken over as a new CEO and you're trying to embed your vision, into the company. And, the 35-year, old white male guy is like, ah, yeah, here comes another one. Seen it before. Color of the month, flavor of the month. This stuff, TQL, TQM never works, and they're down there, in that bottom 20%. They are your spoilers. And so you need to understand what those people are. And some of them can be those informal leaders I talked about, and some of them can be formal leaders. Like maybe some of your no kidding people with titles are going against what you're saying.
Interesting.
You have to get to them, and you have to talk to the whole company and say, this is why we're doing it. That's why the why is important. But if you know that somebody is taking you down, you kind of invite them for a cup of coffee or something in your, in your office or something. You go, hey, what do you think about the new policy? Oh yeah, sir, man, it's great. Well, actually, I've heard a couple comments attributed to you that you don't really like this thing. So you have a nice hard edged but gentle conversation with them. And you say, hey, look, this is, then you start to apply, what's that word? You start to be sensitive to their ego. You start to pump their ego up a little bit, and you say, you're a very strong leader in my company or my unit. And I'll tell you what, if you would help me to bring this thing, I'll give you the podium, whatever you want to do. If you want to be a team leader, you scare the crap out of them and say, I'm going to make you responsible for this, but you buy them in. And if they don't come in, they're off the bus. Okay, so 20% at the bottom, 20% at the top, other way around. It leaves you the 60% in the middle of the company, and that is your frozen middle. And they're just sitting there. They come to work every day. They listen to you. They're okay. People sort of near the top are sort of inclined to follow you. People near the bottom are sort of inclined not to follow you, and you've got to break into the frozen middle. You've got to drive cracks down through that organization and bust any kind of fat or, sclerosis apart. Like we go work out, we're all, you got to break all that, that arthritis and stuff up by getting into your organization and making sure that communication is going down. And you do it through communication. Strong, empathic, heart to heart, human, vulnerable, transparent communication. Even acknowledging when things aren't working right. And this is what I'm trying to do. Can I get some people's help? You break into the frozen middle to get those people going with you. And you can have, in my experience, and this happened, on an aircraft carrier, 5,000 people, one human being can change the attitude of 5,000 people in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And it can happen. So in your company of 300 or 150 or 5,000 or 10,000, you can have that effect. You just need to work hard at communicating. And I don't mean just, sending an email out or you do a new strategy and throw it out and go, hey, everybody, strategy's on the website. I mean, you got to get out. And if you're really trying to change things or to make a real good impact, you are out and about and connecting with people, finding those informal leaders and making sure they know you love them. And they're your bud, and they're going to help you out with this stuff. And you're leaning on them going, man, I just love what you do. I just love watching you. You're imparting that love and connection from the CEO level or the C-suite level or the top level manager level down into the organization. So they'll go with you. And so that's kind of how you do it. And even if you're kind of an introvert sort of a person, however it is you communicate, it is vital you communicate with everybody. And if you sense that people are fighting you, you got to get them off the bus.
Yeah. And you're spot on. I mean, I think that's, especially in the companies that I've been a part of in the past, it's always the communication because, good people don't leave good places. I mean, they leave because of management or they leave because they don't feel valued. Yep. And the places that I have felt the best, done the best work, worked with the best teams, the smartest teams, we've always had somebody that leads from that people-centered focus. When they're the ones that whenever something in the company doesn't go right, they're the first ones to get everybody on a call and say, hey, that sucked. I know. I'm right there with you, but this is where we're going and this is how we're going to get through it. Yep. Today is not good, but we're going to get through it as a team. They just kind of alluding to what you were talking about earlier when we first started. They just have that uncanny way of bringing people together. It's not just an email sent out that then you have all those naysayers that can say, oh, did you see that? And then all of a sudden it's just, off to the races with things you don't want. But they really do that leading by example and leading with the
Yeah.
heartfelt communication first.
Yeah. And you're really connecting with people. So you're looking for any win you can, anything that's a plus, or somebody has worked their butt off, and they're winning over here, and that's working really well. You hold them up as examples. You mention them by name. You tell them what they did. Because people want to be recognized, and
Yep.
hey, I want to get talked about too.
Yep.
And even if they failed, you can say, hey, look, this is what they were trying to do, and I totally support them. And yeah, they failed, and they got us to this point. But boy, do we learn a lot, and you're genuine and authentic about it. And
Man,
that's
some of the
yeah,
best places that I've been, they encourage that swinging for the fence mentality.
yep,
When it's like, look, swing for the fence. If we fly out to center, that's okay. We're gonna learn a lot more about ourselves because you swung for it, and we're gonna see where the hurdles and the stumbling blocks and the miscommunication happened. But you know what? You're gonna grow. We're gonna grow, and before you know it, we're all gonna start seeing those go over the fence. So I love that, and I love all the stuff that you've talked about, just of leading with that, with the message and everything else first.
yeah. I think David, your listeners and really insightful listeners who go, oh, wait a minute. I mean, we could swing at the fence and whiff every time, and we could just go out there and be disorganized idiots. I mean, you've got to kind of understand, as the boss, where it is you're trying to go, and whether you're doing it yourself because of your experience, or whether you've got somebody that's whispering in your ear because they're, technical expert or something, whatever it is to get that, expertise, competence, technical competence, financial competence into the mix. You got to have that kind of thing. And so once you get those things established, and you've got some pretty good, for your swing for the fence metaphor, you got some pretty good skill sets. Yeah. Don't be afraid. Come on, this is okay. Let's do that. And then figure out where the weak spots are, and then hone those down. And maybe, yeah, we're hitting base hits, and that's good. And then depending on where you're taking people, you celebrate those base hits, and you remind them,
Yep.
base hits, on base percentage gets us runs, gets us, revenue, da 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 da. But I'm wired, mostly because I'm a fighter pilot, to lean all the way forward and just go for it. I mean, put the throttles up and let's go.
Okay.
And you've heard, there's a great quote, there's an Army quote out there, if you're caught in the middle of a rice paddy and people are shooting at you, the last thing you want to do is stand still. So go back, go right, go left, go forward, whatever you do, but move.
Yeah.
So make a decision and go.
Mike, I also want to talk about your book. So tell people more about your book, how they can find it, who it's for, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, David. So my book's called Learn How to Lead to Win. It's looks like that.
And I'll also make sure that is linked in here so that anybody listening or watching can go straight and check out their copy today.
Yeah, thanks. So Learn How to Lead to Win. I self-published on February 3rd of this past year, 2023. It's available on Amazon in paperback and in hardcover. And I also narrated the book on audio. So it's my voice. It's me. I did the whole thing. It's 33 stories, that are from me figuring out I wanted to go to the Naval Academy until retiring as a 2-star admiral, 36 years later, actually 40 years later. And each story is a fun story about either flying or driving the ship. It's full of failure. It's full of, oh my gods. And then each story, appended to the story, is a leadership lesson. So this story, I learned this. And then after each leadership lesson, there's a resource, like if there's a Maxwell book on it, or a Covey book on it, or something like that, or a quote, then they can get that. I wrote this book. Obviously, we did a lot of work on who's the target audience. So if you're a Navy fighter pilot turned into an admiral, sure. I mean, you're going to understand this book. And a lot of my buddies read it and they go, oh man, I got a story like that, and it's all parallel, or I was there when that happened to you. But I have gotten comments, really good positive comments, that this book applies to business. It applies to, we wrote it, there's no cuss words in it. There are no bad situations in there. You can hand it to your 10-year-old, and a lot of people have. 10-year-old grandson, go read this thing, or where you're going to go. Everybody has reported to me that they, no matter what their background is, they learned something from the book. The other thing on my website, www.mikemanazir.com, David, is we've got a bunch of content. I release a newsletter every week that has a specific leadership challenge for people out there that are trying to lead. And we have a kind of a file of them. There's about 100, and we just released newsletter 26. And so we take one of my stories or a story that we know is kind of adjacent to it and add a story and then give some takeaways or tips and tricks on how to deal with something. So if it was me and I was receiving these things, I'd probably print them out and put them in a notebook, and they're kind of references, right? So, and all of this, I will tell anybody, none of it is new. I plagiarized everything I learned, from somebody else. Bad leaders, good leaders, so they're not going to go in there and go, oh my gosh, I never heard that before. But what it is it's one man's journey through leading in the Navy from a command of 350 people to 10,000 people at the end of my career, dealing with bureaucracy in the Pentagon, how to be positively accountable, how to lead from your heart, not with your title, how to show that you care about people, all those things, how you recover from adversity.
Yeah.
And, the summary point, and I'll quit talking on this part, is there's 3 themes in this book, 3 themes. The first one is have a North Star. Have a North Star. Where am I going? What's my vision? And throughout this book, I had a North Star driving me somewhere. Second theme is I am willing to risk everything to get that North Star, so I'm going to fail. I'm going to find myself failing. It's going to be part of life, right? And then the third theme is recovery from that failure, knowing that there's going to be something on the other side you're going to be able to recover from. And actually, what I have found in all of my failures in my career is I turned around and realized that the result was better than had I not failed.
Yeah.
And my life turned a different direction. And so I hope that people will get the book in whatever format, helps them the most, and then get something out of the stories.
Mike, that's fantastic. And I will make sure to link both your book, website, newsletter, everything, because it's just chock full of so much fantastic information and just a database of knowledge. Is there any way that people can keep up with you outside of your website? So is it LinkedIn, Facebook? Where can people follow you and get, keep up with updates and all of that good stuff?
Yep. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're on whatever they call Twitter, X, I guess. But I stay up on LinkedIn pretty hard, and I'm doing that all the time. But we replicate the posts on the other platforms, and I have a marketing assistant who is really, really, really good at those other platforms. And so she replicates everything over there. The newsletters go up on each of those platforms. We hit them twice a week. The newsletter comes out as one newsletter a week, but we hit it twice. And then I'll do a short content video where I'll say, hey, this is our topic this week. And then there's a little bit of verbiage on top of the post, and they're quick hitters. They're one pagers, and, the short content videos are only, 20 seconds to a minute. And so there's some good brevity in them. And we try to keep them as clear as possible so that leaders could say, that resonates. Maybe I'll try that.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I have one more question for you before I let you get out of here. So let's say that somebody, like myself, first time, number one, doesn't ride roller coasters. Number two, would probably get sick in the bushes thinking about even getting on something like an F-14. First flight, what could I do to prepare myself to sit behind you as we go up?
Oh,
and nothing is a perfectly fine answer.
Well, obviously the cliche is strap in and hang on. And don't touch anything that's yellow and beaded, yellow or black striped, let's do a little bit of insight for a second. So when I used to take people flying, first of all, I did not want them to get sick.
Yeah.
Did not want them to get sick. I wanted to understand the environment we were in, and we would brief. And so I think it's important as a leader, the number of times you just drop into a situation without briefing the people that are with you, and all of us, everybody can think about a life situation where they didn't tell the person next to them what was about to happen, and it was a disaster, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe but your spouse or your kid has no idea, and they're freaking out, and you're going, no, it's nothing to worry about, but it's so much fear and uncertainty to them. So, start with a vision and a why. Hey, here's what we're going to go do. And when I would take somebody flying an F-14 or you and me are going to go out, this is what it's going to be like to strap in. You're going to wear the gear in the para-rigger shop first, and you're going to see how it kind of goes on. A little bit of claustrophobia. So you're telling them, look, you're going to feel like this. Nothing to worry about. Everybody does. I do too. I hate this stuff, but this is kind of what it's going to feel like. And then when we start pulling G's, you're going to do this hook maneuver where you're going to say the word hook and you're, out loud while we're pulling G's. Hook, 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 like that. And what that does is it tightens up your core, keeps the blood up, up high and out of your extremities, up in your head, and you don't gray out. You don't pass out. Right. And so we'll do two G's, 3 G's, 4 G's, hey, you want to try 7.5 or 9 today? Yeah, man, I'm in, and some people are like, no, I'm good. I'll stay right here. And
stay at 4.
Yeah. So we'd go up, we do a roll and say, hey, how was that? That's pretty cool. You doing all right back there? Yeah. Feeling pretty good. All right. You want to try another roll? Sure. Okay. So we do that. Now we do a barrel roll. That's what this looks like. And you explain what they're doing. And then the other thing too is you get people outside of themselves and outside of their fears. So it's psychological. When you get sick in an airplane, or it's psychological, you go, I'm going to get sick. I know I'm going to get sick. And guess what? You get sick, and so what I used to do, and I used to do this for myself too, is when I started feeling kind of weird, I'd look outside. And so when anybody was flying with me, the last thing you want to do is kind of look down and try to find that barf bag, or be looking inside the cockpit and not looking outside, and you're getting all claustrophobic again. You can't see any reference points and you're going to throw up, so put your elbows up on the canopy rails, put your hands up, turn the air conditioning up, get the thing on you and look outside, look around.
Interesting.
Get the perspective, right? And that's metaphorical for us, because you want people, they're getting honed in. They're like, this sucks. I'm getting hammered. Say, hang on a second. Hold on. Okay. Let's just breathe for a little while. Let's turn the air conditioning up. Let's take a walk. Let's just take a walk. Let's go see what's going on. Let's look outside. Let's, what's happening, man? Oh man, I hate this. Oh, no. Let me explain kind of where we are. And so if you and I were going flying in a Tomcat and you started to feel bad, first of all, we go straight and level. Okay, so let's take away the impetus. So in the company, you take away the stress for a minute. Let's look outside. Let's look at the perspective and say, hey, so what do we see out here? Man, so we're still good. Everything's fine. It's temporary, things like that. And so you get that kind of outer vision, but you start with that brief first, so that people, uncertainty causes fear, and fear causes people to go inside themselves, and they won't try. Right. They won't try. I got a great parachute story for you that, if you got time, I'll tell you, but if we don't, then I'll save it for people. I have an ebook. It's free. It's called Trust, Personified. I think that's what it's called, but it talks about the story of me jumping with the U.S. Army Golden Knights. And the first jump was, you say you won't get in a cockpit. Well, the first jump with them, I ejected them in F-14. That's in the book. I just pulled the handle and rode the thing, but
Sheesh.
Voluntarily jumping out of an airplane was, that first step. I did not want to take that first step. So
was that just one of those same things? It's like, well, we've just got to pack it up and do this. So let's, one foot in front of the other.
I'll tell you the vignette real quick. So I was going to go jump with the Golden Knights. It was part of my job was to schedule their demonstration schedule and stuff. So anyway, I went down to then Fort Bragg and learned how to, all their gear and stuff, and determined I was going to go do this free fall thing called accelerated free fall, where 2 of these guys were going to hang on to me going out the airplane. I had my own chute. So it's like 3 of us are going to go, right? And like I said, I jumped out of a Tomcat. I know how to parachute. I know how to fly, and military training is military training. So it was okay. So we go to do that. I get trained, and the next morning we go up in their Fokker F-100. It's their twin engine, demonstration airplane. And we got down to the drop zone, got in the airplane, took off, and it's like normal. It's like, okay, we're going to go do some military thing here. And so these 2 guys are Delta dudes, secret squirrels.
Yeah.
Like badasses. Both are shorter than me, but I guarantee they could kill me with their pinky finger, and I wouldn't even know I was dead, So anyway, we get ready and we go up to 14,000 feet over the drop zone in North Carolina, down there at Rayford, North Carolina. And so we stand up, hey, okay, Commander, time to go. I'm a lieutenant commander in the Navy at the time. Got 1,000 hours plus in the F-14, got a bunch of night landings, been a bunch of places, scared the crap out of myself. And fairly fearless. So we go over there and we stand up, and the guy on my left rolls this cargo door up, and we're looking down 14,000 feet to the North Carolina countryside. And I went, oh, no, I'm not doing that. Nope. I was terrified. My knees buckled, literally. Never happened before in my life. I was like, no.
Big cement poles.
Dude, I was like a dog. It's like, you're not getting me out of there. So I backed up from that door right into the guy on my right side, right? And I don't know if your listeners can see this, but he's looking me right in the eye from about 3 inches away. And he says, "Sir, this airplane's going to land. We're not going to be on it.
Oh my God.
We can either throw you out or you can take us out. It's your choice." In that instant, my fear disappeared. I had total confidence in those guys that even if I fainted dead away, they were going to save my life. Their expertise and their briefing right then, and him looking at me going, "We're going. Okay, we're going, and you're going with us."
Okay.
It just disappeared. It's the most amazing thing. I went from completely like catatonic, terrified, knees buckling, there's no freaking way I'm going out that door, to, all right, 1, 2, 3, out we went.
Wow.
Funnest thing I ever did.
Oh,
it was epic.
So
that story
fabulous.
It's not in this book, but it is in I think it's called Trust Personified or something like that. We have an e-book that's available, and if you go on the website, it's for free. And it's a short story about overcoming fear. But as a leader, you want to take away the uncertainty that causes the fear, that causes hesitation. And you do that by showing people what it looks like, or, hey, trust me, this is going to be fine. And you do what I tell you, and we're going to be good, even if it's the unknown.
That's fabulous. I mean, my palms are sweaty just thinking about it, but everything you said is exactly right, And Mike, this has been fantastic. I will make sure that everything is linked so that people can check out your book, keep up with you, sign up for the newsletters, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, David. This was awesome. It was great talking to you.
Yes, sir. You too. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video and comment. I love to interact. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the channel.